All right, so get this. Google Notebook LM. Basically, it's like having this crazy good research assistant, but like digital, living in your computer, and it like analyzes your documents and just pulls out like the best parts.
Yeah.
And you, listener, sent us a ton of info on this, so you're obviously ready to deep dive, and we're here for it.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Like everyone's got research papers, articles, emails coming out their ears. Notebook LM is saying, hey, what if instead of drowning in all that, you had an AI just hand you a margarita of the important stuff?
So no more like highlighters and sticky notes everywhere.
Less about highlighting, more about the AI, like reading it all for you and becoming an expert on whatever you're researching.
Okay, so not just another note-taking app. What makes Notebook LM so different?
So imagine you've got, say, a bunch of articles about remote work, right? Future remote work, all that. Instead of you reading it all, you get to listen to a podcast about it, but it's like tailored to those documents.
Wait, like a whole podcast with different voices and stuff?
Yep.
Exactly. The deep dive feature, it's basically like having a bunch of experts, but like AI experts, and they're all going back and forth about your research, even coming up with counterpoints and stuff.
Okay, now that's cool. Like a brainstorming buddy who's always down to talk shop.
Yeah.
But how does it even work? Like, what's the tech behind it?
So it's all powered by these things called LLMs, large language models.
Uh-huh.
Basically, they're the brains behind those super smart chatbots everyone's talking about. But with Notebook LM, they've been trained on like mountains of data, so they've learned how to understand language, like really understand it, and then they can write stuff that sounds like a human wrote it.
So it's like a team of robot researchers who just crush through information and make connections we'd miss.
Exactly. And this deep dive thing, that's where it gets really interesting. Say you're researching, I don't know, the history of AI. You could tell it, hey, make me a podcast where one AI voice is all about the good stuff AI can do, and the other one is like super cautious, warning about the dangers. It's like a debate, but customized to what you're researching. Okay, that's a game changer, for sure. Makes all that complex info way more fun to learn. Speaking of, it's not just picky about what kind of files you upload, right?
Nope, not at all. You can throw PDFs at it, Google Docs, even like YouTube videos if they have transcripts. It takes it all in and makes sense of it.
Now that's what I call versatile.
Yeah.
But it can't be all perfect, right? Got to be some downsides, some things our listeners should watch out for.
You're right, nothing's perfect. One thing is, it's only as smart as the info you give it. If you feed it biased stuff, the results will be biased too.
So garbage in, garbage out, like they say.
Exactly. You got to be careful about your sources, even with AI.
Makes sense. Anything else? I heard there's a limit on how much you can upload.
Yeah, that's true. Right now, it's 50 documents or 50,000 words per notebook, whichever comes first. So big projects, you might need to break them down a bit.
Good to know. Not replacing good old-fashioned note-taking just yet then. But for smaller research or areas of interest, sounds amazing.
For sure. And keep in mind, this is all still pretty new tech. It's going to keep getting better, more features and improvements all the time.
Which is exciting, but also kind of hard to keep up with, right?
That's tech for you. But hey, means it only gets more powerful.
Okay, so for everyone listening who's thinking, this sounds awesome, but how does it compare to everything else out there? Because it's not the only AI productivity tool, is it? How does it stack up?
Good question, because there are some other big names out there. Notion AI, Microsoft Loop, Mem AI, all have their pros and cons.
Let's break them down one by one. What's Notion AI all about?
So Notion AI, it's really good at like blending in with the Notion app, which a lot of people already use. It can write different kinds of stuff for you, like blog posts or even poems if you're feeling creative.
Okay, so more of a generalist then.
Kinda, yeah. It can also summarize meeting notes, like if you have a super long one, and it can even help you outline a new document, which is handy.
So like the Swiss Army knife of AI tools.
Yeah, something like that. They keep adding more stuff to it.
Cool, cool. What about Microsoft Loop? Where does that fit in?
Loop is different. It's really built for teams, like from the ground up.
So less about you holing up in your research cave and more about like actually making group projects bearable.
Exactly. It uses AI to help you co-create documents, everyone working together, and it can pull out the key takeaways from like a big brainstorming session, even suggest what you should work on next.
It's like having a project manager who's actually helpful and doesn't make you do icebreakers.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, last but not least, Mem AI. This one sounds kind of sci-fi, right? Like straight out of a movie.
Right. Mem AI is all about remembering. You dump all your notes in there, however they come out, messy, whatever, and the AI is like, don't worry, I got this. Organizes everything, connects related ideas, and then here's the kicker. It reminds you about that stuff later when you actually need it.
Hold on. So it's like having a second brain that's way more organized than my actual brain.
Pretty much. It's great for people who have a million ideas but have trouble keeping track of them.
These all sound so powerful. But you know what they say? Sometimes the original is still the best. What about those classic note-taking apps, like Evernote? Can they even compete with all this fancy AI?
That's a really good point because not everyone wants or needs all the bells and whistles. Evernote's interesting. They've been kind of slow to jump on the whole AI bandwagon.
Sticking to their guns.
Yeah, they're more about having really, really good organization and search, which, to be fair, a lot of people still need and rely on.
Right, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it
Yeah.
really depends on how you work, what you need the tool to do.
Totally. Some people are all about structure, some are more go with the flow.
Okay, so if you're out there listening and you're like, okay, I'm sold on AI, but which one do I choose? It's like picking a favorite child almost.
I know, right? The good news is there's probably an AI tool out there that's perfect for how you work. Think about what bugs you about your current setup. Drowning in research papers, Notebook LM, can't remember that brilliant idea you had 5 minutes ago, Mem AI, team projects making you want to pull your hair out, Microsoft Loop, try them out, see what sticks.
That's good advice for, well, pretty much any tech, right?
Yeah.
Try before you buy. Now, before we move on, I want to go back to Notebook LM's deep dive thing, the AI podcast maker. You said it could be really helpful for people who learn better by listening or maybe have trouble reading. Can you unpack that a little more? What could this mean for education, the bigger picture?
Think about it. You're a student and you're trying to learn about something super complicated, like quantum physics. Instead of staring at a textbook, you're listening to a podcast about it, but it's been created just for you based on what you need to learn. That's what's so cool about the deep dive thing. It could totally change how we learn.
Wow, like having a personal tutor in your pocket.
Yeah.
But what about those AI voices? Are we talking like that robotic Siri or Alexa voice, or is it more natural?
Oh, it's gotten way better, trust me. The voices in Notebook LM, they're surprisingly good. Not perfect. If you listen super closely, you can tell it's AI, but they're always working on it, making it sound more human.
So not like a robot reading a textbook.
Not even close. It can do like the ups and downs of how we talk, the rhythm of it, makes it way more engaging to listen to.
That's good to know.
Oh,
Okay, so we've talked about what Notebook LM is, how it works, all that. But let's zoom out for a sec. AI is definitely shaking things up when it comes to how we work, how we learn. What do you think it all means, this whole AI thing? What's the future look like?
that's the million-dollar question, right? AI is changing everything. It can take over those boring, repetitive tasks so we can focus on the interesting stuff.
Working smarter, not harder, as they say.
Exactly. But we also got to be realistic. Some people are worried about AI taking their jobs, and that's a valid concern.
It's not all sunshine and roses.
Right. But I also think AI can help solve some big problems we're facing, like climate change, or even just like making healthcare better. It's all about how we use it.
Sounds like we're at this turning point. And tools like Notebook LM are just the beginning. Exciting, but also a little, I don't know, intimidating.
For sure. Like, we're writing the rules as we go along. It's up to us to make sure AI is used for good.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What's the one thing you want listeners to take away from this whole conversation about Notebook LM and AI in general?
Don't be afraid to try it out, but keep your eyes open. Be curious, but also be a little skeptical. Remember, it's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used in good ways and not so good ways.
It's on us to use these powerful tools responsibly.
100%. We're the ones shaping the future of AI with every choice we make.
So for our listeners who are like, all right, I'm ready to give this a shot, what are your top tips for really making the most of Notebook LM?
First things first, don't treat it like a junk drawer, right? Don't just dump every file you find in there. Be picky.
Quality over quantity.
100%. Remember how we were saying the AI is only as good as the info it gets? Same deal here. If you're looking into something specific, make sure the stuff you feed it is, actually about that and from good sources.
Don't want to accidentally build an AI echo chamber.
Exactly. Another thing, don't be shy about asking it tough questions. Really push it a bit.
Like, don't just treat it like a note taker. Treat it like a really smart friend you can bounce ideas off of.
That's a good way to put it. Like, instead of just summarize this, ask it, what does this all mean? Or what would someone who disagrees with this say? You'll be surprised what it comes up with.
It's like brainstorming, but with a supercomputer.
Exactly. The more you use it, the more you'll get out of it.
Gotta love that. So it's not just about like passively taking in info. It's about really engaging with it. And AI tools like this can help us do that in a way we couldn't before.
Totally. It's like they help us see the connections we might miss, and that makes us better thinkers in the end.
That's what it's all about. So we're not just talking about new tech here. We're talking about a new way of learning, almost.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's a way that's more accessible to more people, which is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember about all this, about Notebook LM and this whole AI revolution that seems to be happening?
That's a good question. I think it would be stay curious, but don't check your brain at the door. It's awesome tech, but it's still tech. Try it out, but think for yourself too.
Because with great power comes great responsibility. Man,
Exactly. The future of AI, it's not something that just happens to us. It's something we're making, all of us with every choice we make.
that's a great point to end on. So huge thanks to you for breaking all this down for us today. It's been super insightful.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.